What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for May 3rd, 2021. We have a 3.13.1 patch in the PTU that has some hidden features that are pretty exciting, a Calling All Devs update on Theaters of War that was a long time coming, and the hugest funding drive from last year is about to begin in 2021. Let's check it out. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news, bundle it into one video, and throw my opinions in there as well. Also, I do live stream on twitch.tv/SaltEMike every day but Monday and Tuesday now. I'm taking Tuesdays off as well. And yeah, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time, stop by, say hello, check it out. Let's jump into the video now. We're going to start out with those 3.13.1 patch notes. It's just mostly fixes and two sort of major updates. Arena Commander is getting a 1v1 mode, which I haven't been able to try because for some reason I can't even select the ship. But if they do kind of end up tying leaderboards into this, I think that should really help PvPers have something tangible and, I don't know, like the ranks can really help prove who the best is, and I think that would be really cool. There's also some bounty improvements to PvE bounties, which seems more like a setup to future actual improvements that currently is like detrimental to the bounties currently in the game. You cannot quantum to where the bounty is anymore. You can quantum to the nearest location and then fly to it. Think the drug labs before they had bounty marker or quantum markers, right? So you had to fly to the nearest marker and then fly to the drug lab. There's still moments like that in game. I think this is probably going to be a good thing in the future, but right now it is sort of not that fun for people who enjoy bounties. So what do you guys think? Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about the bounty changes. I think it's really obvious, though, that it is a setup for the future. Commodity alerts. Now, this is something that most people probably didn't see. If you open your journal and go to the very bottom, there are commodity alerts for... right now, it's just food and distilled spirits, but it's showing, like, kind of decent profit margins for these. These aren't the most profitable things to trade. It's only showing these two commodities, but there's a lot of potential there. I touched a lot on this on Answer the Call this week, so make sure you guys check that video out. Moving on to video updates. We had an ISC that started out with an armor featurette, and everything is about priorities in Star Citizen and with this game's development. So what is the priority for the character team right now?
We want the universe to feel diverse. We're trying to build worlds that have multiple communities, right? And we want the universe to feel like there's so many things out there, so many things that are unknown.
So the plan for the character team as far as new PU assets, we are making a much stronger push towards new armors.
Diversity in armor and experiences is going to be important throughout the alpha, beta, and released versions of this game, so I think that this is totally fine. Makes a lot of sense to be focusing on something like this. Now, quickly, let's just shoot through some of the concepts that they showed and things that they're working on.
My favorite is going to be the heat suit, because it's the first of its kind where it mainly focuses on fabric.
This is not a modular armor, so the silhouette of it can be quite different because it doesn't have to mix and match like other armors do. I'm most happy about of this particular group is the Gray Cat one. It was nice to go and approach like a utility armor and say, no, this gun's gonna look cool. You could actually rock this thing and it's gonna look nice.
We had several kickoffs before we even concepted this armor.
So the RS Heavy. This one is much more bulky and armored, but it still shares the same design language that you see in the RS. The manufacturer influence of a lot of wrapped cloth areas, and this is still getting that very tactical sort of vibe, something like a SWAT officer you might see. Similarly, with the variants, you can see we carried over the variants that you see before, so the Arctic Ops, the Black Ops, and also the Fallout versions. And Similarly, they have new helmet fronts as well. So we get the geo changes as well as just the material variants.
Now, all of those were cool, but before we move on to the next segment, there was one more armor, which they are using to showcase something that could be really cool in the future, and that's Theta Geo, they called it.
So this armor here, we don't actually have an official name for it yet. So, the armor. This is the armor that has no name for now. Hopefully, by the time it comes out, we've solved that problem. One thing that is unique about it, it is a modular armor. However, there are pieces of geometry like the breathing hose or cowl here that normally would not work with our modular system.
There is this one thing that the character team we have talked about before in previous panels and stuff, and which is Theta Geo, where if we pair 2 or more items together, a very unique geo would then be added on. So visually, they would look the best.
Now, most MMOs' endgame content is joked about being fashion, and I think that's partly true for sure. And this tech and ideas that they are having here could really help with that and make armor combinations look really cool, be really fun, and kind of be part of the game. Right now, it is, but it's not. I think mostly people just throw on the sets because the combinations are not the best to make really cool things, and if they start tying this Theta Geo stuff to it, it would be really cool. The next segment was on Crusader and one of the platforms and the progress they're making on that. I didn't find this segment that interesting or exciting or newsworthy, really. Basically just showcasing that it's in progress, and it's all white, so you couldn't really make out a ton of detail, stuff like that. So I want to touch more on this stuff as I'm sure it will progress throughout the months leading up to 3.14, and we get a closer look. So moving on to Calling All Devs and the Theaters of War update. I think this was one of the more underwhelming Calling All Devs. They basically said a lot of things we already knew and repeating a lot of things basically, or just going off on tangents that weren't really asking the questions or answering the questions that we were asking. So they were asked where they are now, and I clipped a lot of things out and tried to put something together to show really where they are now.
I think where we're at right now is that we had some really good feedback and positive vibes from the recent test. We've taken that and utilized that feedback to kind of solidify the direction that we want to go with Theatres of War, specifically Scenario 1, which is Crossroads of Crime. And then we're going to be basically pushing on to what we really want is Scenario 2, which is kind of a more ship-centric mode.
So they're delivering a second mode before the first one is even out of Evo. That doesn't really feel right initially. I think this next clip is why we aren't seeing it as a more open game that we can all play.
What we want to do as well is we want to start integrating into the features that we've been pushing live to Star Citizen. So tractor beam, for example, we've got we've got mounted guns that we're pushing live, and trolleys, and manipulation of entities from one place to another. So that's where we're starting to come. We're working on healing right now in terms of being able to revive people who've gone into a down state.
And a great example was our very first Evocati test that we had done with theaters, right? The performance was really brutal. But in terms of, any game running at 20 frames, 25 frames even, that's tough to play.
Now, I left some out of these clips because these guys were kind of all over the place. The performance did double between the first test and the second, so that last clip there isn't the entirety of what's going on, but I do think they are looking to put out a game that people want to play from the start. They want feedback that is real, that can actually help Theaters of War, Star Citizen, Squadron 42, and they can't do that with bad performance or a game that lacks features. So we cannot sit here and beg for Theaters of War. Where's Theaters of War? Where's Theaters of War? And then give them a hard time when there's no features or performs bad and isn't fun. Sean told us at CitizenCon 2019, this was about the game, the gameplay, the fun, not the visuals. He's living up to everything he said, except for when we were going to see it. So the only thing I ever begged for and was upset about was the lack of transparency with what's going on with Theaters of War, because I think this is a really good middle ground for what Star Citizen combat could be, and something that we can enjoy now while they continue to develop like server meshing and the things that are required to make those experiences possible in Star Citizen. And yeah, I think they kind of delivered on this, even though it was very difficult to pull out that information from this Calling All Devs, because they were just kind of wildly talking about random subjects and not really answering the questions of where they are. Bad performance, no features, not fun. That's where they are. So moving on to other updates. Sneak peek. We had a Crusader whale plushie under a blanket. It was very obvious what it was. This looks like it's going to be in-game and probably out-of-game for sale as well. We had a jump point. There is a segment on the Merlin, as well as a visual guide to Star Citizen corporations. They also showed a previously seen bounty hunter armor that is looking like it's currently in the game, so likely coming soon to us. Also, on the armor subject, we had a May subscriber armor, which was like a buggy-looking helmet from Sakura's Sun. Next, Invictus. So this was the huge funding drive from last year. It is going between May 21st and June 1st. It is on Microtech once again. Touring the Javelin interior is the big ticket portion of the event. There's also a huge free fly where you can fly all the ships. Last year, this was, again, a huge funding event for them. I expect it to be less this year, probably 20 to 30% less. Remember, May last year, we were totally locked down. The entire world, that people were looking for something to do. They were getting stimulus checks, something to spend their money on, right? So this doesn't necessarily mean if they do less well than last year that this event was not a success, right? If it doesn't surpass last year, that doesn't mean that it wasn't a success. If it does, I would be absolutely blown away though, because of just the situation that people are in now. Money's probably a little bit tighter. People are going back to work, vaccines, all that stuff. So lastly, Galactopedia update. They did a full-length article on the crab that is in the fish tank, and yeah, just many shorter ones as well, so feel free to check that out. And that'll do it for this week, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, leave a like, comment down below. Feel free to check out my Twitch stream. And if you didn't know, there is a join button on this channel now, so you guys can support directly on YouTube, where most of the support I get for content creation is just on Twitch. I just wanted to give you guys that option there. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching again, and I will see you next week.